Hey guys, welcome back to another one of these daily vlogs. I believe today is day number 11, and I thought today would be cool to maybe look back at one of the crappier points in my life. So some of you may be familiar with my story of like how I got to where I am now, doing what I do. And occasionally I mentioned that I had a hellish job for 2 years, and the most you usually get out of me is I was a developer. So I figured today we'd look at what it was like to be a SharePoint developer. So a little bit of background, I went to university, University Campus Suffolk, and there I got a Bachelor of Arts in Game Design. On that course I learned how to program, 3D model, uh, construct design documents, animate, 2D art as well. Basically the whole shebang. It kind of covered all things, but my specialization, as the years went on, most people would specialize in one thing or the other in prep for their dissertation especially. I chose to specialize into programming. I was also the student that was most adamant that we program in C# in Unity 3D, which is the main thing we used on that course. And I took that experience forward. For a long time I was looking for a job, didn't quite succeed at finding the game dev job, came close a few times. That's probably something I'll do in another videos where we talk a little bit about that experience. This experience, let's get to what happened next, where I randomly get a phone call. Someone had seen my CV, which was flying around on all kinds of places, as I was like, okay, I could be a software dev because I have the necessary skills. I just didn't have the necessary degree. And one of the recruiters really liked what they read, contacted me, arranged for an interview in London. I went to that interview, nailed it, Zoom straight in, all of a sudden on the training for this big company, this blue chip company. I'm not sure if I should mention their name. And they gave training. So the whole idea of grad schemes is usually what happens is you go on, you sign a certain length of time, usually 2 years. Most of the contracts have geographical flexibility, but mine was already predetermined where I was meant to go. So I refused that element in the contract, got that fixed. And so I went for this training for several weeks. I actually panicked on like the first day, thought I didn't belong, and tried to catch a train back out of London. Eventually came back, done the training. We went on a very expensive training. I say training. Most of the training was done in the building where it was just like tasks that we were doing. And most of it to me was slightly different. I definitely think I struggled a lot less than maybe some of the other students because I would genuinely say, as a wide spectrum statement, that most comp science degrees don't really focus on the practicality of coding. They focus on the theoreticals and the fundamentals, right? So in that regard, I found that a lot of the people that I was on this training with were less experienced, if they came straight out of uni, at least from a coding background. Because on my course, it was all about what you could actually apply. So we done this training, then we went to the expensive SharePoint training, which is approved by Microsoft, that they paid an exorbitant amount of money for, and it was completely useless. We picked up maybe a minute fraction of what was talked about there because we hadn't had any experience at all with SharePoint. And basically, that's where grad schemes usually get you, because what will happen is in your contract you sign, there's a catch that if you leave early, they are entitled to reap costs from you up to a logical amount, a reasonable amount. It's not a penalty because you can't have penalties in contracts, but it's like a logical fee of what is owed. The way that they build that cost up is that they throw super courses at you that have no meaning to you, and then wham, bam, thank you, man. You're stuck on for, I think I was stuck on for like £16,000 if I left early. So you're really incentivized not to do that. And of course, they really want that to be the case because these grad schemes function a bit like a recruiter. They make money by pushing their product, which is you. You are the product to them. They make money by pushing you out to companies and letting you be utilized in that way. So, in reality, that type of money that could be disputed. If we went to court, I probably would have won. But you're a grad. Imagine the situation: you're an innocent grad. You have no idea of how the job world works. You just got out of uni. You don't really think about that. I mean, I'm not 100% sure if you could get out that. Mind you, I'm not a lawyer. I didn't consult a lawyer in the end because I just saw out the contract. But I think it probably wasn't enforceable, and they wouldn't want to take you to court anyway for that sort of money because it would cost them so much more. But as an innocent grad, you be a good boy basically. So that was the training experience. Then we get on site, and I find out that we're going to be handling the SharePoint online environment for a very large blue chip organization, like over 75,000 employees worldwide. Pretty crazy. The SharePoint family, the people who are like in on what we're handling, because mostly we're doing a lot of support as well as like online development. They're all right people. They're actually really nice people. I get along with them. They seem reasonable enough. Most of the other people, like it was a mixture of a few young people, but most people in that office were grumpy, middle-aged assholes who clearly had a chip on their shoulder and were a little bit bitter that they were past their prime. How I would the world. It was definitely a complete cultural misfit, which this is someone else I should really point out. To go back to what I was saying about recruiters treat you as a product, you have to remember that obviously for most recruiters, they want you to get along and be a good cultural fit for the end company. But when you're talking about grad schemes as a middleman recruiter type situation, they don't really give a crap that much. For them, it's like it's about the numbers. It's about getting you out. So if you're a cultural misfit, it's kind of too bad. That was definitely the case where I went. You know, I was an avid gamer, always have been. Not really anyone in the office even really understood what games were. They wasted time. Like that's step one. You can tell from my degree. You can tell from the way I talk about passionately that that's like my end goal is to get back into that. I said that to recruiters, and they still treat you in this manner as like just go and do it. And I went and done it because my idea was I'll get new experience, right? I'll learn how to use C# in new ways. I'll be a better developer when I come out the other side. Well, spoiler alert, I didn't become a better developer out the other side because after 2 years, that was the length of my contract, of me being there, I did not get one project or piece of work that was C# focused. Did not involve C# at all because we were just mainly handling the SharePoint Online stuff. So we were mainly working in JavaScript, just front end languages, not really doing much with it. And eventually, it just got kind of worse. Actually, by the second year, I'd more or less just become a glorified SharePoint developer. I was glorified support. I was handling all the calls, the emails, etc. I was getting more and more depressed. I was feeling really down in life. Every day just felt worse and harder to get out of bed. I took up streaming very early on in that job because I needed this. It was escapism, and eventually it became a desperate lifeline that I was seeking. I wanted my stream to succeed so badly so that I could never have to go back to that job, which was not what I got into streaming originally to do. And that really shoot in my life cycle because I wake up at like I had to be at work for 9. It took over an hour to get there, so I wake up let's say 7ish, go to work, finish at 5, get back for about 6, half 6, have dinner, and then stream for 6 to 8 hours. I was sleeping on average 2 to 3 hours a night for a year and a half. Year and a half is a pretty goddamn long time to do that to your body, and I wouldn't advise it to anyone, even if your body is able to do that. I felt like I was losing myself as a person, partly due to the job and partly due to that. I felt like I couldn't think. I felt like I wasn't me. I was just an empty shell. And luckily, when my contract was starting to come to an end and they wanted to cut ties, they didn't want to renew, casting fell on my lap. But that was a fortunate thing that you can't actually count on. I think I recall the later days of my job, there was practically nothing to do a lot of the time because I was becoming very quick at dealing with tickets. And you don't want to see, this is the thing, you don't try and seek more work because you know the work they're going to give you is work you don't want. It's not like you're going to get C# development work all of a sudden. It's just crappy work that you have no interest in. So I ended up just watching anime and YouTube videos on my second monitor. Eventually, my health just got worse. I was incredibly stressed. I in the past have suffered migraines under a lot of stress that was occurring. Severe stomach cramp. Like I could barely get out of bed in some cases. I just felt like absolute crap. And I was taking way too many sick days. So I negotiated to work from home, which got turned down multiple times for no good reason other than grumpy assholes further up the power chain that wanted to exert their power. Eventually, I did get that work from home, and admittedly, there was still a lot of YouTube or whatever else, so I could do what I want. I had my freedom to rest whenever I needed to, and if I need to work outside of the hour parameters, I did a little bit, but most of what I'd done became self-maintained because we made nice FAQs, everything else. My job was becoming irrelevant, and I knew it, and I really didn't care. I didn't care about anything. To be honest, all I cared about was escaping that and finding some way of making myself happy. But I just didn't know what that was going to be. I can't actually stress, looking back at that experience, how important it is that you do something you love. I became disconnected with family. I became disconnected with my partner. I lived with a person and we were barely talking at all. We we were very close to just breaking at that point. And my family would have wanted to be there for me, but I never picked up the phone. I think I talked to my mother once every 3 months, if that. I'm a little bit ashamed of that, thinking back. My grandparents, I maybe saw at Christmas or on my birthday. That was literally it. And this was a recurring theme of everyone. My best friend, I don't think I saw him for 6 months. I didn't have the capacity to care anymore because of that job, because of how unhappy it made me. I consider myself a creative person. I thrive on the creativity, the inspiration, the freedom, and I had none of that. I had a dead end job that was going to be gone, and I knew it was going to be gone. I didn't want it to not be gone, and I was lost with what to do next. I was completely remiss. I'd failed to get into a game development job. I didn't have more development experience now to show for it because I hadn't been doing that in my spare time. I've been streaming to try and escape, and that was the other thing. They always expect you to do stuff in your spare time to be a better SharePoint dev, and I never done that. I never done anything for myself. And at the end of it, I was very lucky that commentary, like talent work in esports, fell on my lap because I don't know what I'd be doing now if it wasn't for that, and I don't know what my relationships with my family, friends, loved ones would be if it wasn't for that. They'd probably be a lot worse. They'd probably be practically non-existent. So I'm actually every day I'm grateful to. I'm grateful to esports for giving me the opportunity that I have. Because at the end of the day, people are driven by different things. And I realized after that I was driven by happiness in my work. Because if I was driven by money, I would have stayed in that career. Like SharePoint devs, CRM devs, Microsoft product devs make a lot of money. If I had stayed at that for another 2 years, I could have easily then became a contractor. Contractors pull in like 500 euros a day. Hey, a lot of money. And there's a lot of work out there for them as well. So, that's why everyone says if you want to make money, a good, stable career is programming because it's always on the rise. I think it's important that people remember that the money isn't all that matters. Money, time, happiness. Choose two. You rarely ever get free. And if you get free, realize how goddamn lucky you are to have that experience. But that's how I'd round that one up. Is just pursue something that feels right to you. Like I said, people are driven by different things. Some people measure their success and happiness by their money, and a lot of people might look at that kind of a little bit monstrous, but realize that that's the person and that's how they function. Just because you're driven by happiness is something different. Some people aren't driven by the career at all. Their career is simply a stay away while they're driven by the goals around owning a house or having a family. It's different for different people. But what I realized is that whether it's through job or personal life, happiness is more important than financial success. And it doesn't mean they're two exclusive, but it is a lot harder to get those two together. But that's my experience with life as a SharePoint dev. Probably didn't put a nice painted picture of it. Maybe people feel that mine's a rare experience. I'm sure there are people out there that SharePoint nuts. I am just not one of them. I go into these things for the creative element, the inspirational element, the kind of giving people experiences. And funnily enough, one thing I am grateful now looking back at that job is that it gave me a low to compare to. That now, because I've had a job that I consider to be the worst of the worst, it makes me appreciate anything better. It makes me appreciate what I do now 10 times more than maybe I would have if I had gone from uni to being a caster straight away. And that's something like I hold close to me, is that I let these moments shape me, but you don't let it define what you're doing next. You look in the past, but you don't live there. And this is one example where I'm able to do that. So that's my thoughts. I'd love to see what you guys think. If you guys have had similar jobs that have inspired you in the same way, maybe you're a SharePoint dev and you have some weird experiences to share, especially support guys. I love to hear support guys. You got to keep in mind, my job was 2 years of supporting as well for a big IT company. And the stories you get are absolutely hilarious. But be sure to hit the like button down below. That does help the channel. Share with your friends, especially share with your friends who it's relevant to, who have had that experience or were devs. As I said, I want to hear their stories because I think some of the stories you can share between IT guys is absolutely hilarious, and it's just facepalm, even to average like viewers who haven't done that job when you hear it. But gonna round it up here. Thank you for tuning in again, and I'll see you in the next one.